Hey guys, welcome to Quick Chatter Live, and we are back with Surya and KK. Karthik Bhai, for the very first time, we have on our channel. Welcome, bhai. Surya, after
Thank
many
you.
days, he ended the drought. Welcome back, Surya.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Olive. Great to be
talking.
back here.
Yeah, talking about the drought, West Indies have ended their long drought of defeating India recently, 3-2. And Hardik Pandya's captaincy was not up to the mark, and right. So, Karthik bhai, I want to start with you. Before reflecting on the series defeat, let's talk about the positives that we got from the series.
Right. The positive as such, I think, very happy to see someone come in and score so many runs, which is in this case was with Tilak Verma. And I somehow felt that this Indian team was like the Mumbai Indians teams, where everybody collapses and Tilak Verma, bats 15 overs in an anchor mode, and then suddenly it takes off at the end to end up with a 130, 140 strike rate. So I think that way, it just looks like, it's an extension of his Mumbai Indians game. But that was one positive. I think the other one was to see that Kuldeep, after having years of not having very clear signals from the team management, is now at least the bowler who's giving you 2 wickets a game. So in any white ball format, I think Kuldeep Yadav seems to be a far safer choice, because now that India are very clear that they can't go with all four pure play bowlers. Like a Kulcha will never happen. This is an experimental series, but I think Kuldeep Yadav's re-emergence and of course, Yashasvi Jaiswal, his attacking nature sometimes on flatter wickets, make sure that we have an opener who's going to go all guns blazing. So those were some of the things that I saw, but I think the positives were far lesser than the lack of execution that we otherwise saw.
Right. So, quick thing like, IPL, Gill had a very good season. And coming here, he had a very, bad, not bad ODI series, but not according to his potential. And T20, out of 5 games, only one game where he performed. And that too on a pitch where the batters, it was very good throughout. So, Surya, how do you reflect? Like, what was going through Gill? And, only one success out of 5 matches. And how do you reflect on that?
It's very odd in many ways because obviously the kind of season that Shubman Gill has had, not just in the IPL, but if you look at 2023 in general, he's had a great year. But what really surprised me was the fact that he was suddenly getting rushed by pace from what I could make out. When Alzari Joseph, shoved the ball into the wicket really. And on pitches that were really not quite, they were definitely not on the faster side. They were two pace surfaces for large parts, except that one game that you mentioned, in Florida where he got that half century. So it was quite surprising because Shubman Gill in general has never been this batter who has been troubled by pace. If there's anything that's troubled him, it is movement. So in many ways, I was quite surprised. I definitely won't worry because it could just be one of those series where which can happen to any player, and probably it's come at the right time. So even if there is some sort of a discrepancy in his technique that's surfacing, he has time to correct it before the World Cup sets in. And either which way, I think the skill that Shubman Gill has, he's just 22, 23, so he's got a full career ahead of him. And
Right.
the way he's already started scoring in white ball cricket, it's very few batters have managed to do that in recent times, at least in international cricket. So I won't worry much. But yes, if there was one thing that surprised me, it was the way in which he just looked a little unsettled against pace in the power play, especially against Alzari Joseph. In that one game, coincidentally, as it turns out, Joseph did not play that game. So, I'm not saying that, that was automatically the reason why Gill scored, but then, very clearly Alzari Joseph posed a different challenge altogether that Gill found tough to deal with. So hopefully he puts this behind him and scores consistent runs like we know he can, and we've seen throughout this year.
Right. Karthik bhai, you want to add something on that?
Sure, I think the point that he made, and this is also with reference to a tweet somebody had posted saying this is Gill's average when he plays for Gujarat Titans, and this is his average when he plays for India. It's like a marked difference. So my only worry is that okay, when you have certain things very clearly laid out, for example, on flat batting wickets where there are not much challenges. For example, the IPL final in Ahmedabad. I remember I was there at the venue. and Gill was timing the ball very well. It took a Dhoni stumping to basically get him out. So I think that cloak of invincibility goes when you have wickets where you have high quality pace and on wickets that probably are slow. And we've seen Caribbean wickets being slow over the last 3 years, even in the Caribbean Premier League. So I think where people get tested once they go to environments which are very different from, otherwise the world is flat thing that we've seen where wickets are flat. So that way, I think a lot of Indians get tested out, and this is my worry that we end up giving them 3 4 games and then we lose confidence in them. It's happened with so many players, even with Tripathi. He was
Yeah.
spoken about, the guy who's going to give intent at number 3, and then you just gave him 3 4 games on slower wickets and Tripathi just didn't perform. So I'm just worried that we expect people to come from IPL where they are like Superman and Spider-Man to come and perform in environments, and once they don't, we just basically discard them. So I don't know what kind of feeling they will take back. So I'm just hoping India is able to, we still have a year now, that we are able to actually find out, okay, that okay, these are the conditions in which these players do well. This is where we need to back them, because they did all of the experimentation for the last T20 World Cup and still went ahead with the same team that played the 2021 World Cup, which was your top
Yeah.
3 4. So that's the only worry for me. You experiment so much and then you go with the same trusted combination. So I'm just hoping we are able to very clearly realize what we expect and not have too much experimentation which meddles with the basics of T20.
Right. Right, that's a very good perspective. Yeah. So one more thing that has caught my eye is that Ishan Kishan played 2 games, and he was not picked after that, and they went with Jaiswal. Do you think that they are going with Jaiswal ahead? I mean, do you think Ishan Kishan is down the pecking order now because Samsung has given the gloves and Jaiswal has replaced Kishan?
I'll probably take
Yeah,
that. I think my
yeah,
first thought process is that someone like I read somewhere on the internet today that Samson, might not be really considered for the white ball series. So the Ireland series could probably be his last chance for some
right,
time. If he does well, well and good. If he doesn't, then I think Ishan Kishan stands a better chance, because in a lineup with right-handers, this guy is like the lone left-hander and is also a wicket keeper. So I think he has higher chances to play, and he's also played a fair amount of games. One, you're definitely sure that if it's a flat wicket and if it's going to be a day-night game, Ishan Kishan is going to come on his own, because we've seen that with those 4 successive 200 plus chases. He was part of those chases that Mumbai Indians won. So you're sure of his abilities. But with Jaiswal, he's just got a couple of games, that too in the T20 format very recently. So I'm not sure how the management is exactly thinking. But my sense is, I don't think Jaiswal is your first choice opener. You might want to test a few things to say, okay, with Jaiswal or with Ishan Kishan, how is the combination looking like? But my sense is Ishan Kishan is still their first choice player.
right, right, right. Yep. So let's quickly move on from West Indies series to Ireland series, because Ireland series, seeing at the complete squad, the only person who needs to prove his complete thing is Samson, as you have told, because Samson has been getting consistent chances now, but the only game he has played, I guess, only couple of games he has performed well against West Indies. So in this, I think Samson will the first choice wicketkeeper this series. So Surya Bhai, how do you think? How much important is this series for Samson?
Oh, very important. I think probably the most important until this point of time, at least as far as his T20 career is concerned, because I think in one days you can argue that Samson's probably not got that consistent rope, and his appearances have been a little sporadic. But in T20s, I think he's played over 20 games now. It's a decent enough sample size. Yes, again spread over different periods of time, but you look at some of the shot selection from that last T20 series in the West Indies, and especially in the second game when I think the situation was set up for him to really bail India out of trouble and give them a good score, where he just premeditated and stepped out, looking to hoik Akil Hussain across the line. These are the opportunities which, whether you like it or not, it is the way Indian cricket is at this point of time in terms of competition. It is very cutthroat. So you have to take your chances. And you look at the next wicket keeper for the series in Ireland, and who's probably going to be the frontline wicket keeper for the Asian Games. It's Jitesh Sharma. We've seen what he can do in the IPL. and against both spin and pace, quality spin and pace. And if you're going to be playing a T20 World Cup in West Indies next year, you want to have a player like him in your side, or at least of that skill set, which Sanju Samson can definitely better, if not, or at the very least equal. So he's got to take his chance in Ireland. There's no doubt about it. Or else, all it takes is, I'll just give you an example of what happened last year. It took 100 from Deepak Huda against Ireland last year to push so many others down the pecking order. I mean, it's a different story that they, what the Indian team did thereafter, in terms of batting him out of position, batting him at five at times, seven, whereas he opened in Ireland and got that 100, if I remember correctly. So, it just takes that one big knock to really shut the door on somebody else. So Samson needs that kind of knock. Ishan Kishan's
Right.
double 100 shut the door on Shikhar Dhawan from the ODI squad. So it takes that one knock, because that's the way your think tank and your selectors start looking. He's played that knock. He deserves a few more games. So from their mindset, and if you look at it from that point of view, Samson definitely needs to have one big knock at least in these three games, and he needs to leave an impact. Otherwise, if they stick with the same top four that was there for the last part of the West Indies series, in T20s, and even if you keep aside Ishan Kishan, then you're ideally looking at a top four without a wicket keeper, and a 5, 6, 7 which will have Hardik Pandya. So all Jitesh needs then is a few good performances, and then he can push Samson out. So it's a massive series for him. I think he's really got to make it count.
Right. Karthik bhai, after this thing, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, I think there's an interesting point that he made about Deepak Huda. I think he batted somewhere in the top
Right.
three in that
Yeah.
game. And I think Samson also scored a 60 or 70 in that same
70,
game.
yeah.
So my sense is these wickets in Ireland are, flat batted tracks. So they are not the kind of tracks where you will have a 120 odd game. I know the first T20I was a 120, 130 game, but it was also, I think, a 12 over contest
10 or
last time
12,
when they
yes.
played. So that way, I think these wickets are primed for 10 to 11 runs per over. So on flat wickets, right? Sometimes when you see a great performance, you tend to think that, oh, this player will do well. But when they took Huda to West Indies after Ireland last year, it was exact reverse last year, or I think the year in 2022, where they first went to Ireland and then they went to West Indies. Because West Indies, the tracks are slower. And even in
Yeah.
Australia, as much as you think these are faster tracks, on the same tracks, I never saw Huda actually scoring runs. So I think some players are suited to score runs on in certain types of conditions, and I think that is where if the selectors are going to think saying इसने 100 मारा है तो ये अभी रहेगा टीम में, I think that is foolhardy thinking, because we've
Very
seen how Deepak Huda struggled, and he wasn't the same player after that, because even in the IPL for
Yeah.
Lucknow, I don't think Deepak Huda had the same magnitude of performance. So it's important for that part. So Samson, even if Samson scores, I think the question for them is, if we are taking a squad to West Indies next year for the World Cup, do we have our best bunch of players who we know will come good in these conditions?
Right.
Samson certainly hasn't come good in these conditions. So unless the management feels that I need to give him a little bit more rope, so if he scores well in Ireland, it just means that he gets that much little more rope into the next T20 series. But again, Ireland, it's a bit of yes and no for Samson. If he doesn't score, you will say, "अच्छा यहाँ पे भी नहीं मारा." But if he scores, you'll say, "अरे यार ये तो flat batted track था." So it's a kind of, I mean, it's a very difficult situation for him.
true.
But I think one shouldn't read much into the Ireland T20s, because it means that these conditions are just like ideal T20 conditions, and you're only testing for, do I have the right batting depth that can get me a
Right.
220, and do I have bowlers who are able to give that crucial 7, 8 run over when everybody is going for 10 and 11? So that is where your extra pace of a Prasidh Krishna, or the extra pace of a Bumrah will be tested in terms of your bowling strength. So I'm actually looking out for a high batting kind of a series. That's how my fantasy teams are also being prepared in mind. So yeah, I'm just keeping that track in mind.
Vallabh, your
Right.
fantasy tip segment is taken care of with that. And just to add to what Karthik mentioned, I think he makes a very valid point about different conditions. But I guess this also in a way sums up how the selectors have got, or the think tank in general. I mean, let's not, let's just take the entire think tank, be it the captain, the coach, or the selection panel. They have got things wrong in recent times. I know that they've got a new selection chair now in Ajit Agarkar, but all said and done, probably that's where things have gone a little wrong because you tend to get carried away by one or two knocks, and then when you throw them into different conditions, and as much as you want to give them a long run, which is fair, all of a sudden they look like a fish out of water somewhere else. At Perth,
Right.
Deepak Hooda looked all at sea against that South African attack, which bullied the Indian batting lineup, except for Surya Kumar Yadav in that game. So I think in many ways this just tells a lot about how there has been a little there has been a game of musical chairs at times, and perhaps the player you're looking to back, you're not necessarily doing it in the right manner, be it in terms of batting position or in terms of conditions. But I guess that's where, even if you come across a flat pitch, which, as Karthik said, I think you most certainly could tomorrow. And funnily enough, there's a threat of rain looming over this match too, so we could very well see another shortened game for all we know. What's in Samson's hand or any player's hand is to just get those runs or those wickets against their name, because I think beyond a point, probably that's all that they have in their control, and then they'll have to see how the management views them going forward.
Right. And
Right.
honestly, if I feel if Samson is batting in the top three or four, he will definitely score a 40 or 50, because these grounds are not going to challenge because they don't have any leg spinner. See, what is Samson's biggest challenge? It is, having a very good leg break bowler like Hasaranga, or
Rashid.
like, I don't know who, uh, like,
Rashid.
uh, like Rashid, bowling, and that to right in the middle overs when this guy is looking to accelerate. So if they don't have any of those options, the other bowlers are not going to be as penetrative as some of these bowlers that Samson feels prey to. And I think he, in fact, in the ODI matches, took them on pretty well. I don't know who the leg spinner was
Yannick
in
Carrier,
West Indies. Yeah, Yannick Carrier. So I think he hit him for a couple of sixes. So
sixes.
I
Yes,
felt very happy seeing that. Wow, he's taking his matchup, head on and going for it. So I felt that maybe in an ODI format, Samson feels that much more confident because there's enough time to do.
Yes.
T20I, maybe there is some pressure, but
Hmm.
that pressure is probably offset on surfaces that are more helpful or conducive to swinging across the line. So I trust Samson will come good if he's getting an opportunity to bat at the top order, because this could series could essentially be India's top three and four getting a good batting run. It's
Right.
not really about your five, six, and seven. That's what I feel about Ireland. And yeah, that's the larger feeling that comes in. But the other point that was also made, selectors going by one or two performances, this is where the larger question is: if do you want an opener who may score at 120, 130, but will give you the stability? Let's take for example Shikhar Dhawan. When India went to Sri Lanka in 2021 and lost that series 1-2, where I think you had your bowlers coming batting at number 5 and number 6. Deepak Chahar batted at 5, and in that series, Shikhar Dhawan was your backup T20 captain, and then he never played T20 cricket ever for India after captaining. Is it better to have that guy who's scoring at 130 but has a penchant for ICC tournaments, or do you want to have these new kids come in basis one or two performances, and then none of them get a decent run and everybody's confused on what is expected out of them? Because the
Hmm.
same thing was said of Mithali Raj too. I wasn't a Mithali Raj fan in T20s at that point when Harmanpreet took that decision to send in, I think it was Tanya Bhatia, to open in that World Cup game, and Mithali wasn't batting. But I see that if Mithali batted and scored a 40 of 40, 30 balls, and the others simply rallied around, you still get those runs. Now, the problem is India are not doing the basics. They're not able to put a
Right.
150, 160 total on board. And I don't know why Hardik's taken upon himself the role to be an anchor. It's like somebody saying, no, I will become a Cheteshwar Pujara in T20s because this is the value I'm going to add. So I don't know why would Hardik go from the position that he was. And again, my bigger doubt is because of the back injury. He's trying to ease himself into the game by giving him very comfortable, positions like bowling at the top of the order. He doesn't need to do that. I
Yep.
mean, we have better bowlers, new ball bowlers who can penetratively get wickets. We have a middle overs problem to solve for, and we also have a hitter problem to solve for at the end. We don't need an anchor coming and scoring 8 of 15 balls, which was effectively the reason why India got to a 160 total as opposed to a 180. So I
Correct.
think this is where we need a little more clarity. Flatter wickets might obfuscate the problem, but I'm just hoping we are able to find a way around this.
Right, right. So coming to that, your point of Samsung batting in top three, I think looking at the current squad that is touring Ireland, I think the only position Samsung Samson plays perfectly is number three because Tilak Verma plays at number four, and I think Samson will be the one who will be playing at number three after Gaikwad and Jaishwal. So I think it's a very good series for top order. If they come good, I think it's again a headache for Indian panel to whom to keep and whom not to keep. But yeah, so let's go to the main talking point of the series: the return of Jasprit Bumrah, and he's not only coming back; he's coming back as a captain. Because after many days, I mean, so how do you reflect on that? So Karthik, bhai, I'll give you a small break. Surya, you can go on.
First up, I'm very excited, of course, looking forward to seeing Bumrah back because not just as an Indian fan or passionate follower of Indian cricket, but I think as a follower of the sport alone, not seeing Jasprit Bumrah for such a long period of time, the sport was poor, and hopefully he's back and he's back for good, and his back holds up as well because I know it's a thankless injury for a fast bowler to return from, and especially with that awkward action. I think somewhere around we probably feared that this was coming. It was probably remarkable in a way that it came much later than it actually did. But hopefully, he's good to go again. And he mentioned at the press conference today that he's been preparing, keeping in mind, having to bowl 10 overs at the ODI World Cup. So he's got the longer picture in mind while preparing his way back. And hopefully, once again, he's just, his return has been timed perfectly because obviously, if he's fully fit, then yes, well and good. And, it makes sense to start off with a with 4 overs on a given
Right,
day, at the international level, and then see how his body holds up. Three T20s in the space of 6 days. Let's see how he holds up, and then slowly we can ease him into the Asia Cup, and then maybe beyond that. So obviously looking forward to it, and you want to see him bowl quick, bowl accurately, and I think with time the accuracy will come. You've got to see about two major factors. One is the endurance, and secondly the pace, because injuries have really hampered a lot of fast bowlers in their career, especially
right,
injuries such as this. So hopefully, it's not the case with Bumrah. With regards to captaincy, I think it's an interesting one because you've gone with your most experienced player essentially as your captain. Of course, he captained in that rescheduled Test match at
right,
Edgbaston last year, so he's always been in the mix as far as the leadership group is concerned. He was vice captain in South Africa for the ODIs too at the beginning of last year when I think KL Rahul captained and Rohit Sharma wasn't available. So he's always been there or thereabouts. But again, as a full-time captain, I don't see how viable it can be because with Bumrah, you just have to handle him with care. When you get the opportunity, you've got to ensure you manage his workload. There's also another line of thought where you might think Ruturaj Gaikwad is going to captain in the Asian Games. Could he have actually captained here? East is Bay, and majority of the squad is going to the Asian Games too. But yeah, he's vice captain over here. I guess in a sense, maybe this might just ease him in because otherwise he'll be directly getting into the role of captaincy when in fact he's not played for India in a while. If we discount that recent ODI that he played
right.
in West Indies, so it's an interesting way of looking at it. In the long run, I don't necessarily see Bumrah as a captaincy option purely from a workload point of view and nothing to do with how he is as a
Skill.
tactician or what he can bring to captaincy.
Right, Karthik bhai.
Right. I think as Surya was mentioning, I was just, rewinding those games. One was the Edgbaston game and the three other games. All those games India lost. So I'm like, hey man, Bumrah doesn't have a great record when it comes to leading
Captain.
India already. And that was something that I was just observing as he was talking. The other thing is a very similar track when Hardik Pandya came back from a back injury. And again, he was given captaincy reins. The first thing he did was to pick up the most comfortable overs because he's coming back from a back injury. And that's my only fear. Hey, will Jasprit Bumrah, he's twice or thrice been rushed into, playing, cricket and then,
Cricket.
taking longer breaks for injuries. So I am generally worried about Bumrah and whether he can, hold up because back injuries are very tough and it's very tough to recover and to, to get back to that same, fitness state and match fitness. So I'm just hoping to, see Bumrah bowl his no overs. I don't mind if he is taking the easy way out because still here there are it's still more an experimental series which India will win. But I'm wanting to see Bumrah ease into his 4 overs. It doesn't matter if he doesn't bowl at the death, but Bumrah could look at two in the power play, one at the or two in the middle overs, because he's a critical bowler. And I think if India can use him in a way that it's not too much of work
Stress.
for his back, stress for his back, I think that is still fine. But I don't want him to go the Hardik way, which is basically, and again, I'm saying this despite the fact that I may not know exactly why Hardik did what he did. But the more I see Hardik Pandya and Krunal Pandya, I'm convinced that these guys are just bullies who just want to go and say, okay, mera batting, mera bowling, I will do all of the overs and all of the batting. And I've seen some of those decisions even with Krunal Pandya in Lucknow Super Giants
IPL.
when he was briefly the captain. Some of these decisions on bowling, over bowling themselves, uh, comes from, I think, an overestimated ability of themselves. Though these are good cricketers that India have had, but at no point are you bigger than the game. So that's my only worry when I see somebody with a back injury coming back as a captain. That's something that I was just thinking this morning. But yes, let's hoping that Bumrah has a different shot at leadership and it's not going to be as bad as some of his earlier experiences.
Right, right. So, looking at the series, looking at the previous games India have had, the only one name which has come into the picture and was playing perfectly well is Mukesh Kumar. Do you think India is looking Mukesh for the future and setting him slowly for the bigger picture?
Well, I think, see, Mukesh Kumar, if you look at it, while in Ranji, his red ball, exploits, people have liked what he's been bowling, because even for Delhi Capitals, Mukesh, apart from bowling, I think one or two death overs, had not set the IPL on fire. Like, he's not someone like an Umran Malik who's, setting pulses racing. But people have noticed something in the way he bowls and the fact that he can be considered to be a skillful bowler to bowl at the death. So I think that way the team management is going by what they have heard from coaches, what they've heard from other talent scouts, and that is how Mukesh has come. He's not come on the basis of a 20 or a 30 wicket IPL season. So they've definitely observed something fundamental in his bowling. In the West Indies, I think Mukesh didn't really impress me. I think at 120 or 130 on slower wickets, I expect that, you'd probably do a 4 overs, no maiden 30 kind of a thing to be normal, but it's not extraordinary. I'm just hoping his range is tested on wickets like these. Because if you're having a flat wicket, Umran Malik, I think last year when he played in one of the island games, went for above 50 runs in his 4 overs.
Right.
So I want to see if he's able to, use all of that skill and do a 4 overs 30 still here, because that 4 overs 30 is gold if you're bowling that on these wickets which give you 220
Right.
runs. So I'm just looking forward to that. With Mukesh, it's not that adrenaline pumping thing that you get to see when when you saw Bumrah bowling that one clip, in Ireland, saying that Bumrah is back. So you felt a lot of memories loaded up in terms of how Bumrah would bowl Yorkers at batsmen or would bounce batsmen out. It's not that traditional fast bowler mold that you have from Mukesh, but I'm looking at him more like an Avesh Khan, which is like a T20 bowler who doesn't look very nippy and pacey, but still has his own ways, to be successful.
Right, right. So, Surya Bhai, I want to have this question to you. The talk of IPL, the talk of KKR, the talk of India right now, Rinku Singh. What do you expect from Rinku Singh, and do you think he'll play the games? If he plays, what will be the impact he will have?
I expect Rinku Singh to start, although I would. So basically, in my lineup, I have Jitesh Sharma listed at 5 and Rinku Singh at 6. So basically, I'll start with both. But because the wicketkeeper conundrum is still on, obviously, you don't want too much of experimentation. But if it comes to a choice between the two, it's not just because of the wicketkeeper box needing to be ticked off, but even on who I feel just has a higher ceiling against quality bowling, I just tipped the scales in Jitesh's favor, even though Rinko has been outstanding for 2 IPL seasons now. But yeah, I think the only other contender in this case would probably be Shivam Dubey, depending on how the batting order comes across and how they formulate it. So otherwise, I'd have both Jitesh and Rinko as my starters in the 11. What to expect from Rinku Singh? I mean, one thing that's always been admirable for me personally is how Rinku Singh just looks unnerved even in the most hopeless of situations. There was a very famous finisher, of course, who finished a lot of games for India. And I don't want to draw comparisons because it's not going to be fair on Rinku or MSD at this point. Let Rinku Singh carve out his own niche and go ahead and do what he's capable of, and he's definitely shown that he's got the potential to do it. But that temperament that he's got in pressure situations.
Right.
If you remember, I think when we were doing the the IPL preview, Abhinav mentioned this about Rinku, that for someone who's seen so much in his life, a game of cricket, it really isn't much when you compare it with what he's been through, and probably that explains his temperament, and why he's able to stand up in a number of pressure situations. So obviously, this is a big step. It's something that he's earned. He's richly deserved
Right.
this, and hopefully he'll do special things at the international level too. Because one more thing that India get with him is, of course, on a side note, a brilliant fielder. He's going to take you're going to find him in all the hot spots, long off, long on, all those catching positions. And
Right.
I think for someone who even if it comes down to say 40, 45 in 3 overs, Rinku Singh is there. As a KKR fan, for example, you'd believe that this is possible. And that 31 run over was not a flash in the pan. He's done it quite often. He almost did it last year. He did it again this year, even in the last game against Lucknow. So
Right.
that kind of self belief that he has, I think it'll add a lot to the team, because we're talking about the team, crumbling under pressure, or losing a game from a strong situation. I mean, they needed 37 from 30 deliveries in that first T20 against West Indies. They had no business losing that game, but then they lost their way completely. So, that kind of temperament that he has shown, if he can bring it to the international scale, then I think we've got a very good player for the long run. And hopefully he does that as well.
Right. Right. So I think we have covered a quite good amount of preview. And to finish it off, I just want a possible, I mean, predicted 11 from both of you guys, and we'll wrap it up. I'll start with Karthik Bhai. Your predicted playing 11 of India tomorrow?
Sure. I think from a bowling standpoint, I'll not go from the top, but I'll go from the bowling. I was looking at Siraj and Bumrah for the new ball, and I was not
Siraj
looking at
there?
Siraj is
Siraj?
there for the series, isn't he?
I think he's been rested for ahead of the Asia
Yeah,
Cup.
I think he's rested.
Okay. So Prasidh Krishna and uh, what's his name, Bumrah for the new ball. Then I
Right.
think in terms of your spinning options, I think then you guys just have to help me with who all are potentially there, because I think I'm not. I actually thought that what's his name, Siraj was there. So if these are your fast bowling options, I'm not sure how much of faith we have in Dubey as a
Okay.
third.
So let me just quickly share my screen so that you can, check the playing 11. Okay. So I think you're able to see my screen, right? So this is the India squad which we have right now.
Got it. Tilak Verma, Shivam Dubey,
So I'll go from the
Arshdeep.
top. So we have Samson, okay, Bumrah, Jaishwal, Gaikwad, Verma, Dube, Rinku, Sundar, Bishnoi, Arshdeep, Mukesh, Avesh, Jitesh, Prashid, Shabash.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I think. Yeah, I think I will definitely want to start with uh, Ruturaj Gaikwad. And one thing with Ruturaj Gaikwad is, again, we've seen that he represents someone like Vikram Rathore, plays very well in domestic games, but when you come to India games, I don't know if you guys remember Vikram Rathore, but in the early 90s, he was somebody who could score very heavily in domestic, but didn't translate that in international cricket, because Ruturaj, I think, has been given enough chances in T20s, but he's been somebody who's not performed. So I'm looking forward to see if there's another side to him that we will get to see after a good season that he's had for Chennai Super Kings. And with Rutu, I think, and this is where I think your other core, is important. So, do you want to have what's his name, Dubey, in a role at four, or do you want Tilak Verma who's slotted in at four? So, would that mean Dubey would be at five, and then Samson would be at three? It depends. Because with team management, sometimes I'm not very sure in terms of what kind of communication they have, because even last year when we saw this guy Huda bat in the top three, that really
Yep.
wasn't expected. So they think very differently from how a normal fan like we do. So, but this is what I'd like to see. And then I'd like to see the same confidence that RCB kept in having Shabazz bat at 6 or 7. So I'm not sure if they'd want to do that because he's a very like for like replacement of someone like an Akshar Patel or
Jadeja.
Ravindra Jadeja. And then of course it's so nice that you have like a full battery of pace bowlers, and especially someone like Avesh who bowls change of pace. Mukesh has got some good experience right now in the West Indies. So, and Prasidh Krishna back in the Maharaja T20 trophy in Bangalore,
Yeah.
so starting to bowl batsmen. So, I think the larger expectation in bowling is can we basically get to see Prasidh and Bumrah, together, and see if they're able to create that impact on 200 type wickets where you're bowling those 8 overs, bowling it very well, like the Mumbai Indians side of 2020 where you just couldn't get past Bumrah and Boult for those 8 overs. So yeah, that's what I'm expecting. I've made it like a bhelpuri of options in terms of what I want, but I think in terms of reality, I don't think Dubey and Jitesh will play all games. More likely that amongst the three of Jitesh, Dubey, and Rinku, each of them, one of them might get 2 games, the other might not even get a game. But
We have Sundar too.
we have Washington Sundar too as the all rounder who can also open the bowling uh, wherever required for off spin. So I think it's a plethora of options, but I think India will try to see what is it that they want to see in maybe a new player. With Washington Sundar, it's a fairly known thing with respect to what to expect from him. He bowled very well in the series against New Zealand at home. So I think Sundar is like a known quantity. My sense is they might not play him there unless they want to see, okay, on flat wickets, can Sundar be used to stem the run flow? As we saw even in the 2020 IPL when he bowled for RCB, he was a 4 overs, no more than 10, 11 runs kind of a bowler on your 180, 200 kind of wickets. So maybe that's something they want to see that too.
Right.
And I
Plenty of options.
and I've just completely stayed away from picking 11. I've just spoken about all 15 players. So I leave that intelligent task to Surya.
Yep.
I think it sums up a lot about Indian cricket though in recent times, Karthik. Not in the right sense, unfortunately, but I think the fact that we have a lineup in mind, but it may not necessarily be the one that they put out on the park. It just tells you a lot, doesn't it, about the confusion that there has been in playing 11s or giving the right players an extended run.
I think if
Right.
they're able to explain and let us know this is what we did,
True,
I'd
true,
still feel happy because there is no explanation, right?
true, true.
There are
Yeah.
10 different combinations your mind is thinking, and then finally, when you see the result, and Hardik Pandya comes and says, "You want to be unique, man," you just feel so cheated as a cricket fan.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, after all the experimentation leading to last year's T20 World Cup, we went back to the same batting lineup that uh,
Yeah.
didn't do the job in the UAE. So, it's just been a game of musical chairs. But at the end of the day, it's the same people coming back and sitting on that chair, whether they played that game or not. And
But India, I think, have effectively, at least in thought and principle, moved on from the holy trinity of
that
KL
that
Rahul, Virat Kohli, and Rohit Sharma.
Sharma.
Let's see.
it seems to be the
Right.
case. Yeah.
Surya bhai, you forgot your intelligent task. We want to get playing 11
So,
from you.
I have an 11 in mind. I don't know if it's necessarily what India will put out on the park. So I'll just reel out my 11 quickly. Ruturaj, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Sanju Samson, Tilak Varma, Jitesh Sharma, Rinku Singh, Washington Sundar at 7, Ravi Bishnoi at 8, and then my three seamers would be Jasprit Bumrah, Arshdeep Singh, and Prasidh Krishna. At least for tomorrow, this is the lineup that I'll start with. Obviously, Mukesh Kumar, wasn't bad in the West Indies, but I think I want to see Arshdeep get back to his best. He's not been nailing his Yorkers, and it's been a worry from the second half of the IPL.
Yeah.
It's been a big worry. The first half of the IPL, he was outstanding. The second half onwards, ever since he dismantled that stump twice, against, I think Tilak.
Mumbai
I don't know
Indians.
if it was Tilak. It was against Mumbai Indians. I think it was Tilak Varma. I don't
And Tilak gave him back.
specifically remember. Yes, I mean since then he's just not been the same bowler, and even in the West Indies he was bowling too many wides. The no ball issue seems to have been sorted,
But with the white balls.
but it's translated into a few wides, and he's not nailing his Yorkers. So I think Arshdeep needs to have a very good series here for his own confidence.
Yeah, it takes
And
some time.
That's why I'd start with him tomorrow because it might just instill that confidence, and also Arshdeep might just find it slightly easier, even though Bumrah is coming back from injury, to have that senior statesman and not necessarily be the leader of the attack, because now Bumrah is de facto the leader of your bowling attack. So maybe that takes a little bit of pressure off Arshdeep too. So I'd like to see how he goes. Bishnoi at 8, I think once again with Bishnoi, what we see is even though he's a wrist spinner and he might play on some of these flatter surfaces, he is cut from a different cloth when you compare him to, say, a Yuzvendra Chahal or in terms of skill set, even a Kuldeep Yadav. The difference is, of
Right.
course, Kuldeep has executed way, way better than Chahal in recent times. But what Bishnoi does is, of course, he's in the Rashid Khan mold in many ways, bowling those defensive lens and, cutting off the scoring shots. So, and I thought he did pretty all right in Ireland last year too. If I'm not wrong, that's where he made his debut, if my memory serves me right. So I'd like to see how he goes over here because India can definitely do with even if they want to play two wrist spinners, and if that opportunity opens up in the West Indies next year, I think Bishnoi and Kuldeep will probably provide them different skill sets. In terms of not just left and right, but also a quick wrist spinner against someone who relies a little more on flight, even though he has after space, and that's of course Kuldeep Yadav. But and as far as the batting order is concerned, I think Ruturaj, Yashasvi, and Tilak obviously picked themselves. Dubey, even I don't think will play all three games. I have my doubts, but I think Rinku Singh. I'd be surprised if Rinku Singh doesn't get a cap tomorrow if the game is on, of course. And we get a game because of the weather forecast. But
Right.
I think Rinku will start. I'd like to see Jitesh start alongside him, and obviously, I hope it's not. You're not going to see these results in this series for two reasons. Number one, of course, as Karthik has mentioned, these are flat wickets. You won't necessarily have your lower order come into play. But over time, I genuinely hope that the frontline bowlers start adding some value with the bat in T20s, because
Right.
as much you need depth, yes, but you cannot compromise on your bowling quality either. You look at the other teams around the world. You take England. I was just looking at England's prospective lineup for the 50-over World Cup. They've got Mark Wood batting at number 11, probably. I mean, that is just ridiculous. And probably they have Chris Wokes batting at 9. I mean, Chris Wokes, who can easily bat at 7, is batting 9. And it's not as though they're picking players or bowlers who can bat. It so happens that their frontline bowling options, their best bowlers, are that good with the bat. And even with
Right.
Australia, you take a Mitchell Stark, what he can add at 8 or 9. You want them to be good enough, or even as
Hey,
good as a
just don't.
Rahara or something.
I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but don't forget Bumrah is the highest runs in a test match against Stuart Broad. And he's a number 11 batsman.
He's definitely worked on his batting, no doubt. But yeah, right now, with Bumrah, right now, my expectations on Bumrah are very simple. Just bowl your 4 overs, do what you do every single time. Don't dive on the feet. Do not put your body on the line and put it at further risk. And yeah, I mean, a bowler like Bumrah, at the end of the day, you'll take what he gives with 4 overs, even if he's not adding much. It's not as though the rest have to, de facto, put pressure on themselves that they have to score. But even if it's a Bumrah or any other bowler, you're seeing a few batters who are not able to clear or rather lower order batters who are not able to clear the 30-yard circle. I mean, the first T20, there was Yuzvendra Chahal came out and then he went back. Mukesh Kumar was supposed to come out. I mean, if that is your confusion as to who bats 10 and 11, in 2023, you expect better from your bowlers. And as I said, you cannot
Right.
compromise on your bowling quality. You cannot pick bowlers just because they can bat. So you need your frontline bowlers to automatically deliver better. So it's just something I wanted to add. We're not going to see that in this series, but over time, I hope there is some kind of roadmap or vision there, because that is going to be important. And it's even Akshar Patel's batting form was being wasted. He's essentially batting with 4 number 11s in West Indies. There's not much he can do.
Right, right, right. So this is what happens when all cricket fans come together. We thought of a 20-minute session, it went to 45-minute session. Right. So I think we have covered up all the points. So if possible, we'll meet again for the second ODI or the, I mean, review of the first T20I. Yeah, nice meeting you guys. Thank you, Surya Bhai, and thank you, Karthik Bhai. Hope to have you in many more sessions coming forward. And yeah, thanks for joining. Bye.
Sure. Thanks
Thanks,
for the
brother.
opportunity. Yeah, good debut for me.
Great debut,
Very good
must say.
debut. Hope Rinku will have his debut tomorrow.
So look forward to that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure. See ya. Thank you,
You're
guys.
on.